Today is December 12th, 2010, and we're conducting this interview in Davis, California for the Veterans History Project in the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. Dr. Bruce Elliott Burns, born on November 3rd, 1963, serves in the Army Reserve and has been deployed to Iraq, Germany, and Kosovo, attaining the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. This interview is being conducted by Connor Wurtz, and with me are Melissa Ostrilla and Alex Lasher-Posner. Now, Dr. Burns, if you'd like to begin maybe with a few biographical details, how you got involved with the military.
Oh, I joined late. I had tried to get into the Navy because I was a big fan of MASH, and I realized in the Navy I wouldn't be Major Burns, but alas, my eyes kept me out. So I was trying to get them to send me through medical school, but it didn't work out too well. So I really didn't have anything to do with the military until after September 11th, and so I don't know, right after that time, everybody was putting little flags on their cars, and it just didn't quite cut it for me. I mean, a lot of people died, and I just couldn't see that as really doing much. And also, I thought that um, that that the war on terror would be one that would last probably for a lifetime. Just, I don't think it's something that's going to go away with positive thinking or whatever. So I decided that rather than wait and do nothing, I would join the military and go. Part of the thing that made my decision, I had hurt my back, believe it or not, and every morning I woke up and I was in pain. And I remember they were just starting to deploy soldiers to Afghanistan. I was thinking, these young, healthy guys are going over there and might get wounded or hurt, and hey, I'm pretty disastered. I'm already screwed up, so I could go and be okay. And also some thinking that if I go, maybe my kids won't have to go. That was a little bit along the thinking. So kind of screwed up logic, but that meant that when I swore in, I was like 38 years of age. And I think I was 39 when I deployed to Iraq, so not typical for most of the military types.
What were you? Oh, gone.
Oh, well, the deployments, the initial invasion of Iraq in 2003. Then in 2005, I was in Germany at Landstuhl Hospital, which was where the soldiers that were wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan came in through. Then in 2006, I was in Kosovo. In 2007, I was back in Iraq. In 2009, I was in Iraq again.
Did your experiences after your first deployment, did they lead you to like go again, or?
Well, one thing is that when I came in the reserves, there were 106 psychiatrists, and now there's about 50 or 60. So it's just that they have a critical shortage on them, so that's why I wind up going more frequently. In theory, when I joined up, they said what happened in Desert Storm was that they mobilized a lot of reservist doctors, and a lot of them went overseas and sat around for a year doing nothing in the sand, because the war for Desert Storm was like 3 days long, and the sitting around in the sand part was like a year. And a lot of them came back and they didn't have their jobs, and they didn't have their wives, and they didn't have they were bankrupt and everything. So they decided to try and change, because after Desert Storm, something like 60% of the docs just left the military altogether. So they tried to change things, and so the deal I came under was, oh, you only be gone for 3 months, so you won't lose your job or whatever. And then, well, when we said 3 months, we meant 3 months over there. The training time won't really count for the 3 months, and then after that, they just kind of didn't bother with the rules a lot of the time. So that's part of why we've gone from like 106 down to like 50 or 60, is so many got out because they were kind of reneging on the deal. My first deployment, I moved in February, and we sat around, none of the time counting, till April. And then I went over there and was there, did my time, and then my replacement got pregnant, so I was there another month. So it was a long time.
Are there any specific stories you have?
Well, I have two things. One, I wrote a book for my kids. I didn't think the pictures would be so good on the video thing. I'm not sure, but just trying to explain my experience. So I have some things there that remind me. And then I had a journal I took with me that I wrote, you know, every other day or something, so I could kind of go in. The thing is, like, the first deployment was the war story because that was active war. Second deployment, I saw several casualties coming back, but I wasn't really in any imminent danger in Germany. Kosovo was kind of slow, you know. It was kind of fun being in a NATO force and working with German counterparts, the German psychologists, his troops, the German troops that were in our region were about to go into Afghanistan, and Germany had just got its first casualties since World War II in Afghanistan, so they were freaking out about, you know, what to do about this. They had German mothers writing them saying, "Bring her home, her kids back," and the commander was patiently trying to explain, here's Kosovo, here's Afghanistan, you know, a few thousand miles between, but, you know, can't argue with a German mother. And, you know, so he was kind of interested because I actually got to give a presentation to the German general about combat stress and the different things that leadership can do to make it better or worse following casualties in the unit. The fourth deployment was in Iraq, and whereas I lost about 15 or 20 pounds my first deployment, in that deployment I went with a broken foot. I knew the gal that I was replacing, Colonel Yu, and she had picked that deployment so she could come home and see her kids graduate. Actually, here's a picture of Colonel Yu. I don't know, see if it'll turn out. You see that? Anyways, she's like 50-year-old gal that works over at Nampa State Hospital. She deployed with me, sorry. And so I knew who I was replacing, and I wanted her to see her son graduate from med school and her daughter graduate from college or whatever, so I went with my broken foot. And they, you know, I showed up and they were like, "There's no way you're going, sir," you know. And, you know, I told my wife, if they tell me I'm not going, and next thing you know, I was going, so she was really angry because she thought that I had done some deal or something to get going. And it was kind of sad, that deployment. "Sir, you can't wear that splint on my firing range." So I had to go out in the firing range. And we had these M16s simulators, you know, that were wired. And I'm crouching on my broken foot, and tears are coming out as I'm engaging my targets because it's like hurting a lot. And then when I marched onto the plane, I had to take the splint off too. It just would look wrong, sir, if you were wearing a splint and looked all ate up when you board the plane coming over. It's okay when you come back, but, you know, the general, you know. So I had to, like, march out onto the plane with the splint and then my carry-on bag and then take it out and put it on. But that time, I gained 10 pounds eating cheesecake. That was pretty much, you know. And I got the biggest little medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, only because I was on this big base, and in that initial 2003, you know, there were 3 psychiatrists covering that big base. I was the only psychiatrist on that big base, so I was doing the work of 3, so that, yeah. And actually, for all the bad politics in the first deployment, the guy who went with me the first time, who had taken a lot of crap from the 8-up commander the first time, he was the commander that time, and I told him if he ever became commander, I'd deploy with him, so we were pretty good friends. And he was Panamanian. He had kind of, sounded like a Jamaican accent, cool guy, you know. And so that was it. The last one was stressful in a couple ways, in that I arrived 2 days after the shooting at Camp Liberty, and everybody thinks of the shooting at Fort Hood where the Muslim psychiatrist shot everybody. Of course, him being Muslim had nothing to do with that, but I'll let the politics out. But not many people remember the Camp Liberty shooting in 2009. It was a soldier who came in the clinic. He's about to leave in a week, and he wanted, you know, maybe a PTSD diagnosis so he could go out on disability. And, you know, the docs were, "Well, you stayed on the base the whole time and not seen any combat, you know. You know, we got kids who are suicidal.